Hello there and welcome back to episode 4 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX version 63. And we have here a wonderful city at our hands, 2 big farms. I have fully recovered from the incidents at the end of the last episode, and nobody has died since then. If you know, you know. And I have gathered up all the necessary materials for the physician. That was where I left off the last episode. We will today take a deep look into the fulfillment screen, because this is we already worked a bit with it in the last episode, and today I want to go into it a tad bit deeper, because there's a couple of things that you should know about this, because this is basically your your information readout about what your city will need and where you need to act before people are dying, before people are rioting and whatnot. And once we're done with that, I want to develop the city together with you folks into the next stage, and that's going to be mining. We got ore here, and we got coal back here, so we can set up 2 big old mines. So this will mean some expansion towards this direction and setting up some mining and all these things. Let's see how far we'll get during this episode, because there's always a lot of things to do in these regards. But we have here also the stone deposit, so 3 mines that we need to build. I'm pretty sure we won't get them done all in one episode, but here we go. So first off, I want to wait until the physician is done, because the stroll into the fulfillment tab is going to be quite interesting when we have something to ogle at. So everything's being set up there, and like I said at the end of the last episode, if you feel like the physician's costs are a little bit high for you at this point of the game, you could also go and go for a canteen first, or go for the tombs first. The drawback of the tombs is they have an insanely high research cost, but they'll require gemstones. So, like I said in the end of the last episode, it is always some heavier cost involved at this point. The canteens are probably the easiest pod, because you'll only need some sort of fuel to heat the food. So, I'd probably and pottery. So, if you don't like the physician, try out the canteen. Just as a side note. So, physician is being set up. And now outbreaks and such things will not have as much impact on the city anymore, because we have a doctor where the people can go to, and that's pretty massive benefit. And it also means a lot to the development of the city. 5 people will be working here. That's a very, very okay investment. So here we go. And now we speed up the game a little bit so we can see here the service meter goes up. So I have already explained a little bit how this all works in the last episode. Today I want to go over all the tabs and their specialties, because there's always something special about every one of these. So here in the services area, we are now providing, let's see, healthcare. That's the big change. So as you see, the meter for healthcare goes up really, really fast, and it spikes up here. And when you have this readout here, it's a little bit complicated to get all these things. You have here the exact details about why the meter is pointing out like that. For example, in this scenario, we currently have only 70%, because we have not enough in the proximity of everybody. So if we'd be putting up another new spot, I guess up here, because it's quite the high walking distance, then this would increase the efficiency. If it comes down to these hearths, the quality is not high enough. So that means we'd go here, we can upgrade them. That would be upgrading the quality of these. So if we want to increase the happiness of the people about their spots, in this situation, we have access at 100%, proximity at 91%. We would benefit from more hearths. We would need better hearths. So, and you have this for every one of these areas, so it really, you really need to pay close attention. So here, for example, the physician is just, if this goes on to be like this, we need to let the time flow a little bit. But here, this would mean we need another doctor, and so on and so forth. So why don't we have lavatories yet? By all means. So I cannot oh god guys. So lavatories, of course, the most basic of all services. So lavatories are something that that I somehow forgot to build in this entire run. I somehow expected them to need a certain technology, but poop houses don't need technology. So yeah, these are massively important. Okay, they are just very cheap to set up, very high impact, and you will spam a lot of these. You will spam a lot of these. So keep them up and have them available at every point of the city. So here you see, and I noticed this now because I looked over this screen. This screen tells you all about these things. So here, for example, people are unhappy possibly because they don't have a well yet. So most interestingly enough, we have the river here available, but we don't have a well. So let's put this up. You can also expand the well by pressing Q and E. Want to have a little bit of a larger one. And let's give our folks a bit of a nudge forward. I love that super fast 250 times enhanced speed. So here, that's the really, really interesting part. Your people are happier because of the well, even if they have direct access to water. That's really important to note. And these are all the informations you can take out of this screen here. So we see here now, we could increase if we bring up baths. So that would be racking up even more happiness. And before you know what's happening, you see the the immigration count is going up like crazy. Just because we've built a lavatory and a, well, basically that's been all the things that we did here. And the lavatory ain't done yet even. That was all just the well. That influx, those 20-ish people, just the well and the current stable situation. So just to give you a feeling about how much impact these things have. And here it's the same thing. So we can, let's go. Let's set that up so you can see it in action. And this way you see it's going up, up, up. And the total maximum amount of service points that we could gather are 21.5. So in a nutshell, that's the maximum you could do. Keep in mind that every one of these are counting separate. Although, as far as I know, you don't need to have a eatery anymore once you have a canteen. You don't need to have a well anymore once you have a bath. But correct me where I stand wrong. Some of these things are quite complicated. So let's head on over to the environments, because here we pretty much saw everything that was worth mentioning here. So here it's about when we check out this is about the makeup of the city. Here we go. For example, people are happy about roads. Yeah, that's about it. Quality and access the subject has to roads. So you might notice that we are here at just at 50%, and it doesn't seem to go further than 50%, even though the value here states out that we are actually gaining. So check this out. It's still hovering around 50% and stays there. This is because the dirt road is just 50%, and that's that stat. You won't be reaching higher numbers with dirt roads. If you want better numbers here, start constructing not dire roads, stone roads for a change. So here you have then road access 80%, road access 50%, and fancy road access 100%. So this is, for example, how you would read out the quality of where are we? Where were we here? How to increase this meter. Not always a direct approach. This goes so many ways in this game. So another thing worth pointing out here, this here squareness has no meter behind it, noise has no meter behind it. These things all don't matter for this species. If we go on over to the Dondorians, there are differences, you see. Dondorians do mind about noise. Cretonians don't. So that means, in the case of the Cretonians, we can totally ignore the noise thingy here. Where were we? This looked different the last time I used it. Well, here. For example, this means with Cretonians you could build housing in that area. They wouldn't mind because they don't mind noise. And therefore, this is different for every species. By the way, this is true for every one of these screens, but as you see here, services is not that much of a difference for most of them, but all of these screens are different for every species, all right? They all have their different personalities to fulfill. And here, there are a couple of really interesting things. For example, roundness. Roundness does not exactly mean that your rooms have to be round. It just has to mean that they are no rectangles or no squares. As soon as you start building nudges and nooks and crannies, this will increase the roundness. Of course, you can build also round rooms by all means, but just wanted to point that out. And yeah, the list here, well, it is quite a lot. And these are all things that you can do to make your people happier. For example, or people would be happier with rations in the store. Look at that. Producing rations will make your people happier. Lighting, lamps would help. Harmony. Well, harmony is something special. Just want to point this out. Harmony. Where is it now? Can we build it right now? It was locked in behind things way back when. Let's see. Can we build a tree? No. So I have to check out how to produce harmony this patch. It was once planting trees, but well, it seems to have changed with this version. Forgive me, friends. I'll be looking this up in between. I don't know how to generate harmony anymore. It seems to be a different approach nowadays. Anyways, you get the idea. Every species has different environmental preferences, and there's a lot of things that you can't take here. So, for example, soldiers and Dondorians are happy if they are stuck in melee training, and yeah, you get the idea. So there are a lot of things to know about this, but I think I've explained enough. For example, humans love gems, Dondorians love Scythalon, and so on and so forth. Let's go to the next screen. Religion we have already talked a little bit about, but I want to go over it in detail. There is also faith fulfilled by temples. And here there are 4 different faiths. So every species is pretty loyal to a certain god, and you need to only build temples for these. For example, the Dondorians would be okay if you have a temple for Krator. They wouldn't miss out much if you have no other temples. I'll be going into that deeper when we build a temple, actually. Occupation, that's about work. That's really interesting. So you can here change the retirement age. So this will totally make people happier. That's one thing. But in all honesty, I need to play around with that myself before I can make statements. This is a relatively new mechanic introduced in V62 that I haven't played around too much with yet. But fulfillment, that's happiness about the jobs the people do. I'll show you in a future episode how to configure that. But in a nutshell, you can make sure that your folks are doing only jobs they love. The more diversity in species you have in a city, the easier it is to have a high fulfillment, because you can basically give the jobs that species A hates to species B, who happens to love these jobs, and you can create synergies with that. Important to note here is that there's also education. I'll leave that up for a later episode because currently we're not building any education. Government. So tourism and these things, I'm new to this. I have to check it out myself. I'm not there yet. But riches. Here, the more money you have, the happier your people are. So you see, the happiness is a very, very is influenced by so many factors. And here we see also punishment. That's another sector that we're going to cover later. So people get happy about prison and judges. And that's that for this region. Excess and population. Let's go over population first. So population up here is, you see, wrongful deaths. People are happy if nobody dies a wrongful death. What a surprise. Noblemen make people happy, but here, this is one that's pretty interesting. Immigrants. So let's just authorize these people to give you an idea about what happens. So the meter now goes down because, wait a sec. Here. The more immigrants we have in our city, the unhappier the people will go. But this meter is going down very, very low because the current happiness is very high. But in a nutshell, whenever you pick up people via immigration, this triggers unhappiness directly. That's true for most people here. So here we have this, the setup about the citizenship. So to make matters really complicated, for example, nearly every species loves to be the majority. So you cannot fulfill this, for example. And this is something that I want to point out. It is nigh impossible to fill all these meters to the max, all right? You'll always have to have some compromise that you need to take at some point. Here, well, I think it all speaks for itself now. So the more slaves you have in your city, the less the Dondorians will like it, and freed slaves are good. I think by now you should be able to understand these meters by yourself. And here I want to point out, here you could also authorize auto-immigration. I never do this because, you know, I personally like to control how things are composed here in the city. Now then, excess. So this is a screen that depicts what people can access in your city and how happy they are about it. This is a very cool thing because here you can do a lot of good things. So first off, you can increase the amount of rations everybody should take. So check this out. If you increase that, you directly decrease the amount of food stockpiles. Or wait a sec, this is this what I think it is? I think it should be. So basically you can allow, yeah. The impact was a little bit slowed. So you can allow you can allow your people to eat more. You know, if you have a heavy overproduction of food, you can generate happiness via this little thingy here. Food pref and food days goes without saying. You should always have enough food days available to have this meter full before you're playing around with these things, just my personal opinion. And here you can also allow or disallow certain food types. So we could here even say, please Dondorian, Cretonians, stop eating the fish. This is required for these folks. So here you can set up whatever you need to make good use of your stockpiles. Equipment. Here's clothing, here's jewelry. We're not producing either of them yet, but in a nutshell, the more you allow them to use, the happier they'll be. Currently, they don't have any, so they're not happy about anything. Housing. So housing, we provide housing, so kudos to us. That's already providing quite some happiness, but there is more. So home privacy, well, so in a nutshell, if I understand that correctly, the Cretonians even dislike privacy. I still have to learn a couple of things. So many things have changed. I'm playing this game since a couple of years now, and you know. Oh well, okay. So, but I want to actually point my finger on this meter more. I reread the privacy thing. I keep misinterpreting things here a little bit myself, so take that with a grain of salt. Furniture, though, I know my way around. So you see here, your housing here looks pretty bleak. That's because we haven't allowed them to pick up anything for their housing. So these are all the materials your folks could pick up for their housing. So we could allow them now to pick up some wood and then they use that for their housing. We can allow them to pick up some clay, they'll use that for their housing, and so on and so forth. Important to note here is there is a consumption rate per year. So that means if you provide that to your housing, you'll have to make sure that you can provide that for a prolonged period of time. And, you know, it might be easy with things like wood, but jewelry, well, not that super easy, isn't it? So every species requires other things for their housing. So as you see here, some are really, really minimalistic, while others are desiring completely different things compared to the others. I feel like the game does a great job here in diversifying the feel of every civilization. So for our current scenario, we're going to allow them now to use some wood. So there we go. And now we can see the direct impact of that. We need to do something soon because we have 86 idle hands. So I leave it like that because, you know, there are surely a few more things here hidden, like decrees and such, that we haven't talked about yet. But the majority of that screen should be clear by now to you. So let's head on over to our mineral patches. So that's going to be our iron. So the first thing I do is I carve out the roads for people to walk on. So it's really good that we have that many workers because, as a matter of fact, ironically, we just barely have enough. And I actually would love to have more. Thing about mining is it is insanely worker intense. So here I'm digging out a portion of the mountain because, you know, I want to free up this area. Super fast forwarding here because, you know, we got lots of idle hands. Chopping down the mountain is done super fast. We do need to import some tools, like I said. Currently, we sadly do that manually. I could do an automation behind that, but I personally dislike to automate trade for very, very small amounts. I don't think this pays off well. So at this point, by the way, it's a personal decision of mine to go for mining first. We could now also go for fabric production and clothing production next to increase the happiness of the city there even further. But as you see here, we have so many aspiring immigrants currently that I really don't feel as if we need any extras there. So let's chop some trees. You know, let's not let that incident happen again. And probably we also should consider setting up some woodcutters camp for a permanent wood income as well, because, you know, we are no longer a fledgling city. We can actually go for more. So the first thing that I want to do here today is I want to introduce a coal mine here. So we're going to set up the coal mine. So the mine itself goes over the deposit and more. So I'm not going to use the entire deposit here because, you know, the mine, as we see it here already, will host a number of 100 workers. 100. Yeah. It's just the dimensions of this. So that's just the first mine. So we're going to put up the storage here and, of course, the auxiliaries to make the efficiency high. In mining, it is super important to be on 100% efficiency. I mean, in this game, so far doesn't give you any incentive to not go for 100% efficiency, but you know what I mean. So we do need way more furniture than we currently can allocate, but that's okay. It is a work in progress after all. So we're going to set the same thing up here for the ore. It's just called an ore mine now. And I keep that many idle odd workers here up because we're carving out the mountain back there. This is a very, very work-intense thing, and it's awesome to have a lot of idle hands for these. So our ore mine will even have 216 workers available. So you see, 80 workers, that's just not much. This game has insane numbers. You know, our city will go into the thousands one day. So it's just like it took me a while to get accustomed to the dimensions of SYX, but as soon as you do, game's just getting better from there. So these are both two insanely large projects that will suck up our furniture production for quite some time from here. So it is really about time that we consider some permanent wood industry, shall we? So wood industry, let's see, do I have still enough time? Yeah. So a wood industry, let's put it up like there. Woodcutter. You set them up over a place where there's permanently trees growing. You can notice them by the green look. And here you see it's just 4 workers. It's not going to be a lot of business here. If we draw it over here, we'd be gaining 9 workers. So overall, this region is not too rich in wood. So let's see, maybe this is a better spot. Here, 19 workers, that would be more like it, but as you see here, it's pretty far away from our city core, so I'm also not too eager in this entertaining thing. So yeah, I knew this when I started up this map, that this would be a tad bit of a problem, so we're going to set up one woodcutter here. And here goes the same logic, auxiliaries, storage, done. And we're going to just set up another woodcutter over there. So if it is necessary to work like this, we will work like this. No problem. So here we go. These will not provide enough wood for the entire city. Nah, no chance. I don't expect them to. But it's going to be quite a nice way to get our production started and make sure that we got everything we require. But as you see here, the amount of furniture that we need is way more than we can muster. But what we're going to do there is we're going to employ a couple of extra carpenters. There we go, because we have the idle hands. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to introduce to you that you can just shift left click every building and copy paste it somewhere else. And this is my humble opinion, one of the most useful features in the game. So we're going to set up a new warehouse over here at this crossroads because it is really, really important. And if you go for long-range expansions like these, it's always paying off to check out where is the radius of your last gender ending, you know. You already might have remembered that. So here. Clearly we do need a new janitor. Don't forget them. You'll pay dearly for it. Janitors are easy setup and easy to forget, sadly. And they also provide a nice little drain on your production. Okay. So there's there's 2 things that I want to do next, but I think I'm going to delay these for the next episode. So our projects here will require an insane amount of furniture, and well, in regards of the mining, well, there is nothing really groundbreaking that mining will introduce once these are running. We put workers in, we get materials out, just with all the other workshops. It's just worth mentioning that these are virtually endless. So that means a mine, as far as I know, will never run out of material. So, and especially when it's coming down to areas like this here, stone, it's really cool because at some point the stone that I'm grabbing from the ground will be gone. It's not a replenishing resource like I mentioned a while ago before. So all in all, it is pretty good to have the opportunity for these permanent incomes. Or these woodcutters camps are the same for wood. They're basically wood mines, so to say. All right, I'll leave it like that for today. I think we made nice progress. We got tons of new workers available, but as you saw there, we also do require them. So in the next episode, I am out to produce my own metal, and we are also going to produce, or we're going to set up the canteen, utilize coal a little bit more, stuff like that. I will set up these buildings between the episodes because, you know, I personally feel as if we don't need to wait for the hundreds of furniture units to be fulfilled. I'm going to buy them with my meager treasury, and yeah, you know the drill already. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you find it entertaining. Feel free to leave me your comments down below and leave me a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed. I deeply appreciate if you do. Consider subscribing, and there is also a playlist link down there below if you want to check out the entirety of the series. That all being said, I hope you had a grand day so far, and may you have some good fun and come back soon. Bye bye.